how many, you've had Florida, experiences in Florida? With
Yes,
bigfoots.
yes.
Right.
I'm an avid hunter. I was. Okay. I don't hunt anymore now. And I've hunted, and I pretty much know the state of Florida backwards, forwards, inside out, because I surveyed 25 years here. And, the company I worked for most of those years, did all state Florida Department of Transportation work, and for the Environmental Protection Agency. And we would get companies wherever that land was that they were going to do, and they would survey it, and then myself and another registered surveyor would go up and walk that property. And that's when things started happening. You see things don't look right. You see trees that's going like this and there's no wind. You know, you get stuff thrown at you. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing that I found surveying was a nest. And I started walking around and I found several more.
What did they look like? Were they just like heaps, piles?
They make different things. The ones that I found that were really interesting was partially enclosed. It's a bed, and what they did was tape like real thin branches, green ones, and they laid them down, and they laid them rows and rows and rows and rows, and then they'd take leaf litter and put on top of it.
Wow.
Then they would take more branches and they would stick them in and bend them like this, and then they'd put a cover on, you know. And it was all weaved, you know.
Right. Not just tree fall that
No,
just happens to
no.
randomly
You know, I mean, you see,
arrange itself.
You see deer beds, you see bear beds, you see all kinds of animal habitats, but these are unique, and you had to have hands to do it.
Oh yeah.
See, that was the difference. So, but then I learned that when you see tree structures, they would have, the first one I ever saw was a tree with 4 more trees that had been broken off right down near the ground and propped up all like a teepee.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I looked at it and I says, yeah, some hunters, you know,
Right.
building a teepee, you know, or a blind or whatever.
Right.
I didn't understand at that point that those tree structures are boundary markers.
Okay.
They claim certain pieces of land, and then they build these structures all around it, and that's telling you to stay out of there.
Okay.
And of course, I wandered right in before I understood that.
Of course.
And then you would hear noises. You'd hear, couldn't understand what it was being said, but they were talking.
Yeah, like a gibberish. Or,
Yeah, oh, it's
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
You know, and so then I kind of eased on it, you know, and then I kept walking around this thing, and I found all these other structures, and I didn't find any nest on that plot that this creature had claimed. They were outside, nearby.
Huh.
I didn't understand that either.
Right.
But they have their own hierarchy, I would call it, you know, they're in groups because my buddy that I hunted with for those years, John, he's seen a couple of them, and it was usually young ones. And he hollered at me, because we always split up when we went hunting, you know, didn't hunt next to each other. And I'd go over there and he'd say, "You ever believe what I just saw?" And I would say, "What you see?" He says, "Some little hairy bugger." You know, he said, I don't know if it was a chimp that escaped or whatever, you know. Because, you know, in '92, when Andrew came across and wiped out South Florida, I mean, literally wiped it out. I went down there and worked. And there were, I guess, about 10 or 12 reptile houses and primate houses that got leveled, and it released all them snakes and those chimps and orangutans and everything into the wild, and they're prospering. You know, we probably got over 1 million pythons in the state alone right now.
That's insane.
I went down on 2 hunts.
Python hunts? Yeah.
I've been wanting to do it.
Oh, it's good money.
Yeah, seen that.
Good money.
We wanted to do it for me and my buddy wanted to do it for a little side job.
There was 4 of us, and we made right at $1,200 in one day. Yeah.
I think it's $50 for any snake up to 4 foot, I think. And then it's like $25 a foot or something after that. It's crazy.
The smallest ones we got were 8, 9 feet.
It's, you be
Biggest
careful.
one was 17 feet.
Everybody says that they're just killing it down there. Everything's dead. No animals, no little guys, nothing like it used to be. You don't see half the animals.
There's no critters.
It's sad.
They're wiping out all the creatures in the Everglades.
The snakes are
Yes.
terrible.
And, you know, especially Mayaca, there's a lot of activity there. That's a dangerous place there. I went down there and checked it when that kid killed Gabby Petito.
Right. Yes, yeah, you went out there?
I went down to the reserve down there and was gonna walk around, but we'd had a lot of rain, and it was just knee-deep water everywhere, and that's where they found his body, and he had shot himself in the head. But there was, everywhere you looked, there was a cottonmouth. They were
Wow.
everywhere. And I almost stepped on the eastern diamondback.
Oh, jeez.
That was so perfectly camouflaged. He was in like, on the edge of like the reed grass out there. And I didn't see him. And I surveyed for years and years. I'm used to snakes. And he let me almost step on him before he rattled, you know. And he's a big old boy.
Where was your first sighting at? Can you tell us about it?
The only true sighting I told you about was on that Cortez Road in Brooksville, where you go straight across by Weeki Wachee's right there on the corner. And then you go down that road, and if you go all the way to the end, there's a boat ramp and boat launch and stuff, little dock down there. But maybe 2 miles up the road from US 19, there's a bridge, a stone bridge. And there's a couple of shops on the other side. So, and it's real pretty there. And you look to the north, and it's just tens of thousands of acres of 6-foot reed grass, like that here. And I was getting stuff set up. I was gonna try to catch some crabs and stuff, because there's a little inlet right there. Seen the grass moving, probably maybe 50 yards out, and it was heading out towards one of those palm hammocks, because those palm hammocks dotted all over that place. And the story I got from this old boy, who's somewhat of a historian in that area, he's been there all his life, he said back in ancient times, when there were no white people or anything here, it was just Indians, that the Indians built those palm hammocks. He said, if you go out there, they're shell, and they would haul constantly shell, and they build those hammocks up until it was big enough to build on. And they lived out there. They were mainly fishermen. They harvested fish and seafood to eat. But that was the story he gave me. And but I'm watching this, and I'm just glued there because the grass is moving. I know I can see whatever it is that's heading out towards one of them palm hammocks. And it took him probably 15, 20 minutes to get out there, because there's water there too.
Right.
I looked up and I seen the head pop up, and then it climbed up onto that hammock. And if you've ever seen a chimp walk and turn and sit down on its haunches, that's exactly what it looked like. And he just sat there probably for 20, 30 minutes, looking back at me.
How big?
He wasn't that big. He was probably
Juvenile or teenager?
Probably 5, 6 foot tall, because that's why he was hidden underneath the grass. That grass is about 6 foot, average is about 6 foot when it's full grown. And then he just got up, turned around, and went on down the other side of that hammock, and got back in that grass, and he was heading for another one. That was the only, and I would have given $1 million for a pair of binoculars and a zoom lens camera at that point.
Exactly.
Because when he walked, he didn't walk like a chimp. Chimps got like
That's way
4
swagger.
hands,
Yeah.
2 hands and 2 more hands on their feet. From what I could tell, that's a long ways. I mean, he was from here to, see where that little gazebo is?
Yeah.
Probably 50 yards beyond that. So that's a pretty long range to be able to tell detail. I could tell it was dark.
Yeah.
Dark figure. But he stood up and walked like a man.